Hello everyone and welcome to our third Fanzilla tutorial. In this video I will show you how to find your targets and set up your Reactions Pro, which means setting up your automation and all your settings. So if you followed from last video, you saw that we connected and customized our first slave account. Now what I forgot to mention is make sure that when you change the username you keep track of it, because now this is no longer valid and this is going to be the new username and the new password, so just make sure you keep track of it. Now for the targets, we'll just head on over to Reactions Pro and I'll give you a quick summary of all the different targeting types, and then I'll show you an example of how to find one of them. So we got posts by keywords. So if I were to put a keyword in here, it would interact with any post, any user that has a post with the keyword. If I were to do posts by keyword likers, it would find the posts that contain the keyword and it would interact with any of the people who liked the post. So same thing here, it would be the person who posts the reel you would be interacting with, and with this one it would be the people who liked the reel. With this one it's people followers, so I'd put in a target and it would interact with all the followers. And for people followers, I would put in a target, it would then find the followers and it would interact with their followers. So this is going to give you a lot more targets than this one. And then we got just so on, it's pretty much self-explanatory. People, reels, feed, likers. So if you know, if you just go scrolling through your actual Instagram feed, we'll just look at the likers. And then hashtags, so like if you just type in a hashtag like trucks, it would just, then any person who posted look 9.4 million public posts, anyone who posted and put hashtag truck, you'd be interacting with them. And then likers is anyone who's liked the actual post, you'll be interacting with them. So it's slightly different but the same thing. We got explore page, so when you go on your explore page it will go through and it would interact with the likers. Now only use these if your explore page is trained by the algorithms where the targets are of the same niche, because if you haven't trained your algorithm for a good explore page, it's just going to be random stuff and it's not going to be effective. And then places, like when you type up a location on Instagram and it would just interact with those people, and then the likers, the people who like the posts that have a place labeled next to them. And we got the timeline, so that's just your own profile. It would interact with the people who are interacting with you. And then you got user IDs, so they're just, don't worry about that one for now, they're like scraped. They're just like actual usernames that you have to put in individually, so I wouldn't worry about that for now. So in this video I'm just going to show you how to find this one, people followers. Firstly, you are going to go to a model or any sort of agency and look at their following. This is probably the most efficient way to find good targets. Now here we have, so here's a good potential targets, so I'd use them and then I'd put their username inside the thing and it would interact with their followers. Your results are going to be completely based on how high quality your targets are. So you really do need to analyze every target and make sure that they are very good. For example, this person has 672,000 followers. However, if I'm looking at their posts, I personally would not use this person because they got that many followers, they got this many likes, 5,000 likes. This tells me that most of their followers are probably botted. They're not real accounts. And yeah, if I use them as a target, my account won't be able to do as many actions. So, but just for the sake of this video, I will be using these ones. Now, the accounts that you cannot use for targeting are verified profiles and private accounts. And this is because with private accounts, you cannot see the followers list or following list. And for verified profiles, you could only see the first 100 followers. See, you can't scroll anymore. Whereas an unverified profile, I could just continue scrolling through all of them. Now the way the software works is one API calls would return 100 followers. So if most of these things, and there's quite a delay between each API call. So if one API call finds 100 followers, but then half of her followers are botted, that means I'm going to be wasting about 3,700 API calls on just fake users, and I won't be able to do any actions I do with them. It's just going to be completely useless. I hope that kind of makes sense, but if you guys do have any questions, just hop on the Telegram and then send me a message in the group, and I'll try to help you out. So I cannot use verified profiles, but I can, if they're good profiles, I could check their following and find even more targets. So I'd usually have a VA that just spends all day finding me good targets. They'd analyze each profile and make sure they are very high quality. So this one, it's okay. For the amount of followers and the likes, it's a decent account. Here, I'm just going to put them in as targets. Usually I find enough followers that would equal up to 1 million. So I have my targets here. I found 3. The followers equal up to 1 million. That's good enough for one of my slave accounts to just work on it. So I just go targets lists and I paste in every single target here. Okay, insert. So this will take a couple seconds to process all these targets, so I'll just pause. Okay, as you can see, all my targets are at the bottom here. Now next, we'll look through story actions. So these are fine to tick. They'll just do the poll sliders. Now, how often to interact with the same user in a mass vote? So how often are you going to interact with the same user? Well, it depends on how many followers that all your targets equal to. So I've got 1 million targets just in here because it's going to be interacting with all of these followers. With 1 million targets, I'm okay with once per 30 days. However, if I say I only had one of these people in here, well, and one of them only had 100,000 followers, so that's 100,000 targets for my slave account, I'm going to reduce this number greatly to once per 3 days. So I've put once per 30 days. By the time we look through and we like all the people's stories and stuff, the next few days I won't be able to do any because I can't like the same people. And usually it is the same people that make stories every day. So I always put once per day on all my slave accounts. It's because the targets that I do, I find about a good account with about 150 to 300,000 followers. And I just have each slave focus on a single good account. And I'll put once per day. That way it will constantly interact with the same user. It's basically like running a retargeting Google ad. So it's very good. Now tick both of these. I like 1-to-1. So that means for every story you view, you like it. For 1-to-1 plus N, it's you keep liking and viewing your stories until you reach your liking limit. So for Instagram, one account can only like 1,500 stories. And that's just the limit that Instagram has set. So after you have viewed and liked 1,500 stories, it would just continue on and just view the stories, because you could view about 7,000 stories but only like 1,500 stories, if that makes sense. Now it says it right here, so you don't have to, but I like to do 1-to-1. So here is just like, if a user posts multiple stories, how would you like to do it? You could like the last story of the user, you want to be safe, I do like the first and last story of user. Please, whatever you do not tick this. I've tried it on multiple accounts. It leads to suspensions. It's a dangerous action. At the start, once you add an account and you start doing actions, I only recommend you do story actions. Just at the start, the first week, don't touch mass actions. So keep all of this unchecked for at least the first week. That's because Instagram sees it as the account was made in, say, 2015. For about 8 years, the account has not been doing anything. And then all of a sudden, it starts doing all these activities. Instagram is going to flag the account and suspend it. So, for every account that you've just added onto the software and you start doing actions on it, you only do story actions, just these. So play around with just these for the first 1 to 2 weeks, and that's as a way it's warming up the account. So Instagram starts seeing actions on it, it won't be as suspicious that it starts liking and following. And these are like the more dangerous actions that can get your account banned. So you just want to make sure your account is warmed up and Instagram sees it as a normal user. So for now, we'll leave mass actions unticked. However, you could go ahead on your own time and read this. It's pretty self-explanatory of what these do. Send DM. Again, these are very good things. You could look through them and figure out what you want. I've put in really easy to understand instructions here. But just at the start, only touch story actions. Then later on, you could play around with all these other actions. Now, gender by name filter is fine. Here, if you just want to interact with male accounts, press enable and then press male. And that's it. And you could also add an additional list of names, but I've already go off about 10,000 English male names. So it's already got a good database of male names to go off of. Username and full name filter, well, if your model doesn't want their family to find them, you could just add their Instagram and it would completely skip them. Now, for every little filter you put into the software, it's going to slow down the actions. Welcome DM, so if someone follows your account, you will send them a welcome DM, and that will then lead into our AI DMing, which I'll show in the later videos. So custom delays, I won't get too detailed about this. However, if you have any questions, like maybe you want to increase the speed of one thing or decrease, then just DM me on Telegram in this group chat and I'll tell you exactly which custom delay to put on. Accelerators, this is a whole different thing. So you have your Instagram slave, and then you got accelerator is basically a slave for your slave account. So accelerators will do all the heavy lifting, all the API calls to find good targets for your slave account to interact with. So if you want to connect an accelerator, you'd then go accounts, you'd buy another account, and then you don't have to customize it or anything. You then insert the accelerator here. It will basically do all the API calls it takes for this account. And the benefit of an accelerator is that it keeps this slave account safe. So if you are experiencing a lot of account suspensions, I know people, they have about 100 slaves and each slave has about 2 to 3 accelerators. It makes the actions faster and it just keeps the slave account safe, because it does cost money for each slave account since you are buying followers and likes. So accelerators, you don't have to change or customize anything. You just buy them, add them to the software and then insert them here. So just ignore this. Here you could see where your followers are coming from, which sources. That's fine. Yeah, that's essentially it. Now, one of the most important things in these settings is activity time settings. Obviously, Instagram is going to flag your account as suspicious if it sees that it's operating 24 hours a day. So we'll enable activity time settings. What we'll do is we'll go 12/12 randomize. So that means, so it's randomly, so for every blue highlighted box, is when the account will be on and doing actions. Here it is every 12 hours. So the account will be doing actions for 12 hours each day at random times and intervals, and this keeps the account more undetectable from Instagram algorithms. So I highly recommend this setting. So these times will be off, these times will be on, off, off, on, and so on. So once you do that, you just press active and save. Here we go. So next, you will then go on activity log, and you could see the activities that your account is doing, and then you should be able to monitor the quality of your targets based on the activities. And I'll go over that soon. On one of my main accounts, I'll show you the activity logs, and I'll show you how to monitor if the account is good or not. Okay, so I've tried to hide the username and stuff, but this is one of my accounts, and as you can see here, just from looking at the stats, you can see that this account has good targets. It's already been 3 hours of the day, and it's already made 300 story likes and 300 story views. Now, as you can see here, 259 from 3,000 requests for Get Reels media feed. Now, Get Reels media feed function is from the followers that you have scraped. It will then look through them and see if they have stories. So it has looked through 25,000 users, and it has found almost 300 stories. So 300 users that have stories. So I consider that pretty decent. Usually you'd want this number to always be higher than this number. Now if it said about 500 requests and it only made 289 story likes, then that is kind of an issue, because it shows that your target isn't good and that the followers are most likely fake. The targets that it is scraping is fake. So each API calls 100 users. Every 100 users, it's finding at least one story. So that's alright, since most people bot their accounts anyway. That's okay.